11 p.m., a photo arrived. My spouse robed in a hotel bathrobe with damp hair and giggling directly into the camera, two glasses on the bedside table, an unfamiliar number followed by an apology for misdialing. I was under the impression she was attending a conference in Dallas. I neither phoned nor texted back the number. Instead, I saved the picture, captured the sender's details, and compared them to my contacts, a quick 4-second task. That was it. The photo depicted a regional sales representative from Jolene's company, based in San Antonio. We had met once during the company barbecue half a year ago. He approached me, shook my hand, and flashed a wide grin. Jolene had requested my assistance in finding a contractor for some office renovation. I never followed up, but he retained my number. I forwarded everything to my work email and stood on the edge of the bed, scrutinizing the picture once more. My wife wasn't taking a selfie. Someone across the room had captured the moment. The photographer seemed comfortable enough to photograph my spouse in a bathrobe at 11 p.m. My hand remained steady, an unexpected occurrence given my profession. I investigate and uncover hidden information for a living, so feelings don't factor in much. Instead, it's evidence that matters. I created a new folder on my computer, added the photo and screenshot, then closed the lid. I set the alarm for 6. Whatever was coming could wait until I had coffee and a clear mind. She called at 8 the next morning with her bright voice and easy laugh. She complained about the monotonous Dallas conference and the poor coffee, and casually asked if I'd looked after the dog. There was no urgency in her voice. We ended the call cordially, with me wishing her well for her session. It was then that it dawned on me. Saul had sent the photo to the wrong recipient at 11 p.m. He became panicked and quickly typed out a message apologizing to the wrong number, assuming they wouldn't care. He hadn't told Jolene about this or warned her. This meant she was unaware that I possessed a photograph of her in Saul's hotel room, which I had stored in our joint bank account on my laptop. My title is the main account owner. Here's my complete transaction history. As I scrolled back to March, there it was, a hotel bill from San Antonio, not Dallas, for $214. This charge appeared on the night of her last conference. I traced more charges dating back months, and each one corresponded with weeks she claimed to be in Dallas. I printed these statements and checked Saul's LinkedIn profile. His location was San Antonio, and his company matched Jolene's. The pieces were coming together. The documents went into the folder along with the photograph. I had my first drink in weeks, standing at the kitchen counter. Later that day, I logged into our phone account, which is under my name, and checked Jolene's call details for the past 90 days. Saul's number appeared on every page: calls each morning before work, messages during the day, between 10 to 20 a day, and more evening calls after 9. These calls were always when I was in the garage or already in bed. This wasn't a casual encounter sparked at a happy hour. Instead, it was a prolonged dialogue that had been ongoing for months. He maintained a separate existence, visible through the phone I financed. The significant number was bolded on the initial page, revealing the pattern clearly. Not much else needed highlighting. It was almost the only one there. By Friday, the file folder was an inch thick. Bank statements, call logs, the image, Saul's LinkedIn profile. I arranged everything chronologically at my desk, just as I would before a compliance review. Aligned the edges, fastened it shut. The same routine, but this time the workplace was my own house. My dog approached and rested his chin on my knee. I scratched behind his ear and closed the folder. Jolene returned home Sunday evening, tan suitcase in tow. Sunglasses perched atop her head, same scent of perfume. I took her luggage, inquired about the flight. She chatted throughout dinner. A discussion on supply chain logistics. She departed from the cocktail gathering prematurely. Background information was her strong suit. Following the dishes' placement in the sink, she leaned against the counter and remarked, "By the way, I stumbled upon Saul on LinkedIn recently. He never did find that contractor." She paused momentarily while drying her hands with a dish towel, her fingers faltering slightly. "Just that, Saul," she continued, folding the towel. "We were barely acquainted and in different departments." "Ah, my apologies," I smiled, mirroring her gesture. An opportunity for honesty had presented itself, but instead of taking it, she maintained eye contact and deceived without a flicker, extinguishing any lingering hope that there was an explanation for the image. Her act with the towel served to end all speculation about truthfulness. I spent the following week arranging everything. On Monday morning, I reached out to Ed Harrell, who happened to be an attorney. Family law, divorce procedure explained by a coworker who had experienced it himself. In 10 minutes, he explained the necessary evidence: photos, bank statements, phone records. He mentioned that the house, with mortgage in my name and payments from my account, would be strong ground. Joint checking would be frozen upon filing. Ed said he could prepare the paperwork by Friday. I instructed him to do so and told him when to file. That evening, I found Jeline on the couch using her phone. I sat beside her, stating that we had been together for 21 years and hadn't gone out alone in a while. "Can I take you to dinner on Saturday?" I proposed. Gallagher's on 5th was her response. I made the reservation and she expressed her pleasure. She placed her hand on my knee and squeezed it, which I reciprocated for a moment before heading to the kitchen. The reservation at Gallagher's was genuine. The dinner was genuine. What she didn't realize was that Saturday evening marked her last meal as my wife. On a Saturday, Gallagher's was dimly lit with a soft camel glow adorned with white tablecloths. Jeline wore an unfamiliar black dress and had styled her hair. She added earrings to her ensemble, looking stunning and self-assured. We opted for steaks. We discussed Trey's semester's academic progress, the neighbor's ongoing fence project, and a coast trip we'd never managed to take. Jeline laughed genuinely on 2 occasions, full and unrestrained. When I casually checked my phone, I glanced at its screen as if reviewing a notification. I tapped it once and placed it face up on the white tablecloth, right between the bread plate and the candle. My lock screen wallpaper displayed Jeline in a hotel bathrobe, with wet hair, 2 wine glasses on a nightstand, and laughing directly into the camera of whoever was seated opposite her. I sliced into my steak, taking roughly 90 seconds to do so. Jeline reached for her water and her gaze drifted over the phone. Her hand paused midair. The color drained from her face gradually, starting with her cheeks, then her lips. She gazed at me and I returned her stare. She chewed, swallowed. I told him he'd saved my number as Jeline's husband instead of the correct one. She should thank him, I said, because he had made things incredibly simple. Her mouth gaped, but no words came out. Her knuckles tightened on the tablecloth's edge. She glanced at her phone again, then back at me, and it dawned on her that I'd been aware all along. "It isn't true," I said quietly, not raising my voice. "Don't." I reached into my jacket's inner pocket and retrieved a manila envelope, placing it beside her wine glass. She seemed to fear it might explode. "Open it," I instructed. Her hands trembled as she unfastened the clasp, took out the first page, a hotel receipt from San Antonio with the date highlighted in black ink. She scanned down the page, then moved to the next and the fourth. Every night she claimed Dallas, but her phone records told a different story, Saul's number marked on each page every day for months. The final page was a photo with his number circled at the top. She placed the stack on the table and pressed both hands against the cloth as if the room was swaying. "These are copies," I said. "Originals are with my lawyer. Filing happens Monday morning. Account freeze follows." I neatly folded my napkin and put it next to my plate, then stood up. The bill had already been paid when I arrived, so I walked past her chair and exited through the front door. It was a warm night, scented with cedar, and my truck was parked directly under the streetlight. Ed filed at 9:15 on Monday, freezing the account by noon. Spent the afternoon updating the garage door code and resetting the security system with new 6-digit pins for both. Jeline called 4 times that evening. I let everyone go to voicemail. She sent lengthy, desperate texts, which I ignored. I had already conveyed what was necessary over a white tablecloth while holding a steak knife. There was nothing more to discuss. On Tuesday afternoon, she arrived in the driveway. Through the doorbell camera, I observed her attempting various codes for the garage and front door, but none worked. She phoned while facing the camera. I sat just 12 feet away on the opposite side of the door, watching her expression on the screen. Her jaw tightened and she pressed her hand against the door frame. Once more, she tried the garage code, stepped back, and gazed up at the house as if it were a new sight. For 20 minutes, she stood there. Eventually, she got back in her car and left. I switched off the screen and prepared coffee. On Wednesday evening, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. Stepped outside, finding Saul on my porch, dressed casually in a polo shirt, hands tucked into his pockets as if delivering a meal. "I understand this is uncomfortable," he began, "but I need you to listen to my perspective." I advanced slightly, not aggressively, just closing the gap. He instinctively retreated onto the sidewalk. "Did you send that picture to me?" I questioned. "You don't get a story from me." He tried to speak up. "Leave my premises. My lawyer will contact yours next time." I gently closed the door, avoiding a slam, secured the deadbolt instead. Peering through the front window, I saw him approach his car parked at the curb. Jeline was in the passenger seat, waiting the entire time. I assumed she had convinced him to come, hoping to reason with me, man to man, and make amends. Saul got into the car. They remained silent for a moment before driving off around the corner. A chuckle nearly escaped me. The man who destroyed our marriage was summoned to discuss its dissolution. The following Monday, a lengthy message from Jeline arrived. I read the entire text, standing in the kitchen. Saul terminated it, leaving her the same week the divorce papers materialized. It seems that a man who betrays another's spouse does not linger for the aftermath. She was residing with her sister Carol in Round Rock. In her message, she admitted to a grave error, expressed longing for our life, and insisted that 21 years must mean something. The concluding line, "Could we at least converse?" I typed one word and transmitted it. Noted. This is the same response I provide on inspection reports when a facility acknowledges an infraction, but the penalty remains unchanged. Brief. Conclusive. No scope for reconsideration. That night I phoned Trey. I spared him the specifics. He did not require a mental image. There are changes at home. Your mother and I are separating. Silence on his end. A prolonged breath. "Are you all right, Dad?" Progressing towards it. "I'll visit this weekend. You don't need to come." Over the weekend, I plan to drive there. After ending the call, I stood motionless for a moment, gazing at the backyard from the kitchen window as the light bathed the live oaks in gold. For 21 years, I've tended that lawn, repaired that fence, and paid off that mortgage, all mine still. It was Saturday morning when I signed the final pages Ed had sent. The property settlement required no objection from her side, leaving the house under my ownership. My name graced the deed, and each payment reflected in my bank account. I tucked the envelope aside for Monday's mail delivery. I dialed Saul's number on my phone, then erased it. Located the picture, him in a bathrobe, hair wet, 2 glasses. His infectious laughter hesitated, then wiped it out too. The screen was now spotless. Stepping outside to the driveway, April warmth filled the air as the mockingbird sang from the pecan tree. I punched in the number of the realtor recommended by Trey's girlfriend on Thursday. "This is Reed," I said, interested in viewing the downtown 2-bedroom on Lamar Street. "When will we traverse it?" On Tuesday afternoon. I informed her of my presence. I maneuvered into the F-150, ignited the engine, and departed onto the southern route. In my rearview mirror, the house diminished, its structure brick with white accents, the porch light I had installed 12 years ago still shining. I didn't decelerate. Tuesday is when I'll be checking out the new location. Wednesday will commence the packing of essentials.